At the start of 2025, many wondered, will AI replace us and steal all our jobs? Instead of getting an answer, we sure got plenty of drama. From AI slop to billion-dollar bets and legal battles, the AI world provided non-stop entertainment alongside genuine tech breakthroughs. Here is a rundown of the wildest AI moments in 2025. The year kicked off with a shock from China. Startup DeepSeek open sourced its DeepSeek R1 chatbot model in January 2025 with GPT-1 level performance at a fraction of the training cost. The model's open weights approach shook the entire industry. Overnight, China had officially entered the chat in a major way, proving it could produce cutting-edge AI cheaply and with open source weights. The fallout was brutal. NVIDIA stock nosedived and they lost something like 600 billion overnight. Then another Chinese up-and-comer called Moonshot AI quietly updated its assistant Kimi to version Kimi 1.5 in January. This multimodal model had an extreme context window and improved math and coding skills, claiming it matched OpenAI's top reasoning model. This set the stage for an even bigger breakthrough later in the year. Not to be outdone in Washington, on January 21st of 2025, Trump walked on stage together with Sam Altman from OpenAI, Larry Ellison from Oracle, and Masayoshi Son from SoftBank, and announced Project Stargate, the largest AI infrastructure project ever, planning to invest $500 billion by 2029 to build out massive data center infrastructure. Then in February, Andrej Karpathy gave a name to what half of Twitter was already doing and introduced vibe coding, where you fully give in to the vibes, embrace exponentials, and forget that code even exists. Instead of writing code, developers would chat with an AI to build software based on vibes rather than actually thinking through it. But not everyone was sold on vibe coding. Lots of skeptics were highlighting issues such as accountability, maintainability, security. Still, Karpathy's playful term captured the zeitgeist. Vibe coding became shorthand for the new way to build apps in 2025. Tell AI what you want and see what slop comes out. March brought an underwhelming upgrade from OpenAI with the release of GPT 4.5. The model failed to crush any benchmarks or demonstrate novel capabilities and only impressed with its lack of intelligence. So early 2025 started looking like the curve is flattening. After watching OpenAI grab the spotlight in 2023-2024, Google was determined to level up in 2025. By spring, Google's DeepMind division had upgraded its Gemini AI to version 2.5 and was plugging it into every single Google product imaginable like there is no tomorrow. Google Workspace, Gmail Draft, Docs writing, slides, image generation, you name it. And by the way, if you're still wondering where Apple is in this whole story, yeah, me too. We'll get to them in the lawsuits. Spring also brought the return of Meta as a contender. On April 5th, Meta AI announced Llama 4, the latest in its line of open-ish source models. But this wasn't just a bigger llama. Meta switched things up with a mixture of experts architecture. These experts were multimodal and multilingual out of the box. Meta boldly claimed Llama 4 outperformed OpenAI's GPT-4o on key benchmarks. But the victory lap didn't last long. Meta had to admit that its benchmark-beating scores were achieved using a special Llama 4 experimental version, optimized just for that test, a version not actually released to the public. Controversy aside, Llama 4 demonstrated the power of mixture of experts, and the industry took note that instead of using one huge dense network, it may be better to selectively activate only a few experts, delivering big model performance without big model compute. By May, it was Anthropic's turn to shine. Rather than a single monolithic model, Anthropic introduced two models in their usual style, Cloud 4 Opus and Cloud 4 Sonnet. Opus 4 excelled at deep reasoning and complex coding, hitting the highest ever score on Sweetbench at the time. Bottom line, Opus 4 is great at coding. Cloud Sonnet 4 is the smaller, more cost-efficient sibling, but still extremely good. Also around that time, reports showed that Anthropic is actually leading the enterprise LLM market with 32% share ahead of OpenAI, 25%, Google 20%, and Meta 9%. And at that point, I know nobody asked for it, but I'll still mention the EU anyways. They were regulating so fast the whole year that they forgot to actually run the race. Moving on, the summer of 2025 was much more about big shopping moves than technical breakthroughs. In June, Meta, loaded with cash and ambition, spent around 14 billion for half of scale AI, valuing the data labeling startup at around 29 billion and recruiting CEO Alexander Wong to lead Meta's new superintelligence labs. Over at OpenAI, Sam Altman wasn't about to sit this one out. He went on a shopping spree picking companies between AI, hardware, and consumer tech. For months, rumors floated around that Johnny Ive and Sam Altman were working on a new AI device, maybe even an AI-era successor to the iPhone. Turns out the rumors were true. In a joint letter, Sam and Johnny announced that the startup IO Products was acquired by OpenAI and that the teams have officially merged. The deal was reportedly worth $6.5 billion. Suddenly, OpenAI had industrial designers, hardware engineers, and even operating system builders. An AI device in 2026, anyone? Not stopping there, OpenAI also bought Statsig, a cloud analytics and A/B testing company. And while Meta and OpenAI were shopping around, Moonshot AI, the Chinese player behind Kimi, rolled out its next act. In July, they released Kimi K2. K2 was a 1 trillion parameter mixture of expert model, open source under a permissive license. It immediately set a new state-of-the-art on coding benchmarks. Essentially, K2 said, "Hey Meta, nice llama, we've got one too." By combining massive scale with an open source release, Kimi K2 earned the tagline OpenAI Killer. Perhaps the most dramatic 4D chess of 2025 unfolded over a tiny but expensive startup called Windsurf. OpenAI entered talks to acquire Windsurf for $3 billion. But in July, as the deal seemed imminent, it suddenly collapsed. As a result, Google came in from nowhere, and in a highly unusual arrangement that had its reasons, Google paid $2.4 billion to Windsurf, not to buy the company outright, but to hire away its top talent and license its tech non-exclusively. Windsurf's CEO and key researchers jumped ship to Google DeepMind, where they will work now on Google's Gemini. And to make things even more confusing, the remainder of Windsurf was acquired by Cognition, the company behind Devin, the coding agent. Of course, no tech saga is complete without Elon Musk. By autumn, he found a way to insert himself into the AI narrative. Sure enough, in August, Musk had filed a lawsuit accusing Apple and OpenAI of an antitrust scheme. And in September, XAI sued OpenAI for stealing trade secrets, claiming OpenAI was poaching XAI engineers to improperly gain insider info about Grok. He also complained about OpenAI's shift toward profit-enabled operations. Oh, and we finally mentioned Apple. Around the same time, Elon and a group of investors reportedly offered $97.4 billion to buy OpenAI. And Sam Altman's response, a one-line tweet, "No thank you, but we'll buy Twitter for $9.74 billion if you want," and made it clear OpenAI was not for sale. Next up, on August 7, OpenAI unveiled the highly anticipated GPT-5, positioning it as our smartest, most capable model yet. GPT-5's big promise was unification, combining the reasoning with other specialized abilities like code generation, vision, and tool use under one umbrella. GPT-5 didn't dramatically outclass its rivals, but it solidified OpenAI's position with an all-around strong model. On top of that, OpenAI rolled out GPT's new agent mode that allows the AI to act as a digital assistant by using a virtual computer to complete real-world tasks autonomously. But by late summer, even insiders began warning that things were getting overheated. Altman told a small group of reporters that when bubbles happen, smart people get overexcited about the kernel of truth. He admitted that yes, in his view, the AI investments were becoming overheated, but he also added that despite the hype, he believed AI could still be among the most important developments in decades. Zuckerberg backed this up by saying there is definitely a possibility based on past large infrastructure buildouts and how they led to bubbles that something like that would happen here. In late September, the circular economy began. NVIDIA and OpenAI revealed a massive strategic partnership. NVIDIA will invest up to $100 billion in OpenAI for a non-voting stake, and in return, OpenAI committed to buying and deploying 10 gigawatts worth of NVIDIA's cutting-edge GPU systems across numerous data centers. So what I'm saying is NVIDIA gives OpenAI money, OpenAI spends that money on NVIDIA hardware, and guess what happens with NVIDIA's stock price? Up only. In early October, AMD announced its own major partnership with OpenAI, and the market reaction was instant. AMD's stock price surged, analysts upgraded forecasts, and headlines framed the partnership as AMD securing its most important customer ever. The AMD-OpenAI deal also added fuel to the debate about AI companies creating financial loops. But everything is fine for now. But not all in September was behind closed doors. OpenAI also made a very public consumer-facing launch. It released Sora 2 on September 30th, an upgraded version of its text-to-video generator, along with a new mobile app. Sora 2 didn't just make better videos, it added sound and even music, and the app included a scrollable feed filled entirely with AI-generated videos. When Sora was first shown in 2024 in a research preview, many creators saw it as a novelty, a toy, not a serious threat. Mr. Beast jokingly tweeted, "Sam, please don't make me homeless." But with the release of Sora 2, the joke suddenly felt very real. MrBeast this time wrote that if AI videos became just as good as normal videos, it threatens the millions of creators currently creating content for a living. A week before the release of Gemini 3 on November 12th, OpenAI rolled out GPT 5.1, calling it a smarter, more conversational ChatGPT. And the tech press didn't hesitate. Headlines framed the release as OpenAI trying to fight Gemini 3 and steal some of its thunder. But for the first time ever, that timing play didn't work. On November 18, Google finally unleashed the big counter move, Gemini 3 Pro, calling it a new era of intelligence, and wiring it straight into Search, the Gemini app, and enterprise products on day one. Benchmarks and coverage were brutal for everyone else, and for the first time in years, it felt like Google was in the driving seat again. Even Sam Altman hopped on X to say, "Congrats Google on Gemini 3. Looks like a great model." Around the same time, Google launched Nano Banana 2, further solidifying its position. As a result, several outlets reported a leaked internal memo where Altman told OpenAI staff that Gemini 3 and Anthropic's progress could create temporary economic headwinds, and admitted that the company was facing rough vibes as rivals closed the gap with the revenue growth expected to slow. And while all that is happening, a chip war is heating up. Google's TPUs versus NVIDIA's GPUs. Google stopped keeping its TPUs just for itself and started pitching them as a cheaper, more efficient alternative to NVIDIA, even offering to put TPU racks directly into consumers' data centers. Meta is now in talks to spend billions on Google TPUs starting around 2027, a deal that could take away up to 10% of the NVIDIA's AI chip revenue if it goes through. NVIDIA's response was that tweet from their newsroom account: "We are delighted by Google's success," they wrote, before reminding everyone else that NVIDIA is generation ahead and the only platform that runs every major model everywhere. Translation: "Congrats Google, but we're still the boss." Although, I'm not so sure. And just as I was finishing this video, DeepSeek decided to jump back into the story. On December 1st, they announced DeepSeek version 3.2, a reasoning-first model built specifically for agents. According to their own tech report, the model uses a scalable reinforcement learning framework and sparse attention, matching or beating GPT-5 on several reasoning benchmarks and hitting gold medal performance on international math and coding Olympiads. In short, the same company that kicked off 2025 by crashing NVIDIA's stock price is closing the year by shipping an open agent-ready reasoning model that claims to go toe-to-toe with Gemini 3 Pro and GPT-5. Yep, good luck keeping with this timeline. To wrap up the year, Ilya went on Dwarker's podcast and basically gave the industry a reality check. He declared that the age of scaling might be over. Simply throwing 100 more compute at AI is yielding diminishing returns, and future progress will require new ideas and approaches rather than just bigger models. Andrej Karpathy had already given a very similar vibe check on the same podcast a few weeks earlier. He mentioned AGI is still a decade away and kind of called today's autonomous AI systems slop, pushed back on the hype about 2025 being the year of agents. He says it's really the decade of agents and argued that current training methods are way too simple to get us to real AGI just by scaling them up. So did AI steal all our jobs in 2025? Not really, not yet, but it did steal the show. China proved it can build frontier-class models cheaply with open weights. OpenAI went from just a lab to an ecosystem, devices, browsers, agents. Google finally looked dangerous again with Gemini and its TPUs. Anthropic quietly became the enterprise favorite. And Meta bought half of Scale AI and hired its CEO to run super intelligence labs. NVIDIA and AMD turned GPUs into gold, and Musk inserted himself into the narrative in his usual style. With that, thanks a lot for watching. These were the wildest AI events in 2025, and see you in the next one. And if something huge, actually when something huge gets released before the end of December, consider this my apology.